Hola, cage fighting connoisseurs. This is KidNativeBloodyElbow.com, the cat that ate the canary after Conor McGregor's big win. Joined by Zane Simon for the 6th round of UFC 189, McGregor versus Mendes. Conor McGregor can do it. He can beat a wrestler. Awesome pay-per-view. Robbie Lawler and Roy MacDonald put on a savage, horrible, bloody war. The whole pay-per-view card, every fight was a finish. 4 KOs and TKOs, 1 submission. Straight up brutality from start to finish. The undercard kind of sucked, but what a night! What a night!
Yeah, who even cares about the undercard at this point? Like, I am on such a violent high right now. There's no coming down from that, and I'm really happy to see Conor McGregor win that fight. You know, I like Chad Mendes. He's a good fighter, but I've seen him fight
a once-in-a-generation star.
No, I've seen him fight Jose Aldo twice now. I want to see that fight, you know?
Yeah. I want to see Aldo, McGregor, and right now I got to pick McGregor in that bout. But I might be high on hype and victory there. But McGregor, he took the beating. He got taken down. Mendes elbowed him, pounded him, made a mistake going for a choke, let him back up. McGregor needed what? 20 seconds, 15 seconds standing to beat him there at the end of the second round?
It was all those body kicks. It was our body kicks and body punches that he built up early on. He just, he broke Mendes's striking defense because of it. Because Mendes had to start keeping his hands low. When he kept his hands low, he was getting hit hard in the head, and that just accumulated fast.
Yeah, it really did. And right from the beginning, McGregor walked him down, cut off the octagon, hypnotized Mendes into standing in front of him, where he really didn't have a chance with the massive reach disadvantage, massive power disadvantage. Mendes landed a lot of hard shots. I mean, Mendes acquitted himself extremely well. McGregor knows he was in a fight. It was easily the toughest fight in McGregor's UFC career. He's got 1 loss in his pro career. But
2, yeah.
I thought it was a tiny bit of a quick stoppage maybe there at the end, but I think the outcome – it was going to happen. I mean, Mendes had his chance. He had him down. He beat on him, but could not put him away. Let him back up. What exactly happened when he went for a choke? It's all blurry, in the heat of the moment. What happened that Mendes let McGregor up there at the end?
He like the thing, and this is what I was saying before, and Mendes did a lot more of it than I thought he would, is that, the Team Alpha Male guys, they don't do like lay and pray. That's really not been their thing. So they're really like, get you down, beat you up, look for the submission. If they don't get the submission, let you back up, start over again. Mendes did a lot more of the like, I'm just going to sit in your guard and beat on you for a while than usually he ever does. And so he...
It was working really well.
But eventually, like, that's his training is... you get the guy down. You don't just lay there and lay in his guard. You go for the submission. You go for the finish. You get it. And the moment he tried to go for a submission, McGregor just exploded out of there. And that's just a testament to McGregor's conditioning. He wasn't getting tired when he was underneath Mendes.
No, he definitely wasn't panicking. Wasn't getting tired. Incredible performance from Conor McGregor. Incredible hype. Sinead O'Connor singing the intro song. I don't know who the dumbass redneck was singing that crap for Chad Mendes, but oh my God, that was a terrible, terrible song. And I love old country music, but that was just garbage. Like a litany of cliches, but that's well off the topic. But McGregor, the crowd was definitely pro McGregor. It seemed like they flew in all of Dublin to root for him there in Las Vegas. Mendes was fighting an uphill fight in every sense of the term and just couldn't do it. It's sad for Mendes. This guy who's a great fighter who's probably never going to wear a UFC championship belt. Never say never, but at this point, don't think he can get past Aldo. Don't think he can get past McGregor. Doubt he could get past Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar come to win the title. So, que sera, sera. Life's tough, Chad Mendes. You're incredibly, incredibly gifted. You're one of the top 0.010 percent of your profession, and you're never going to taste gold. So life sucks. But Conor McGregor, this cat is going to be making the UFC money for some time to come, I hope. Just enormous. The web traffic was insane tonight. There's enormous interest in this guy. This guy is a star, the first breakout star of the post-GSP era, other than Ronda Rousey. Just really exciting to be part of, even as a spectator and commentator. Really fun fight.
Yeah, no, it was insane, and yeah, he's gonna, and the only danger for the UFC now is, how much control do they give McGregor? Like, how much do they have to rein him in? Because he's somebody that, he's already talking about he wants to own the UFC, and this
Yeah.
is this is a guy who he says crazy things, and then he works really hard to do crazy things. So they are going to have the kind of star on their hands that they can't maybe control as well as they would like.
Yeah, it's entirely possible this is a dynamic changing, seismic shift. They had enough trouble with GSP, who really wasn't that aggressive a personality. I mean, George St.
No.
Pierre's a pretty compliant kind of guy, and John Jones obviously flamed out before he really had a chance to see what kind of superstardom he could attain. Ronda Rousey seems like a team player, and honestly, she's probably headed for Hollywood rather than long term in the fight game. Conor McGregor is a fighter. And a lot of business possibilities here. I mean, he has to know. I mean, obviously, he presumably has a percentage of the pay-per-view, which is going to add up to millions of dollars. But his flat salary of $500,000, there were boxers on pretty small cards tonight matching that. And he's
at some point he's going to look at those boxing salaries and look at these pay-per-view sales, and he's going to start asking, like, why am I not getting 20 million a fight? Why am I not getting 30 million a fight? That's where I should be at. And what are they going to do with that?
I don't know. It's going to be very hard, very interesting to see. But we got to talk about the welterweight title fight. Robbie Lawler, Rory MacDonald, quite possibly one of the greatest fights I've ever seen. Just a savage symphony of brutality. Lawler dominated. First round they felt each other out. Second round, Lawler started picking him apart, poured it on in the second and third round. Then late in the third round, gets hit with a head kick. MacDonald pours it on, looks like he's going to get the finish, doesn't quite do it. MacDonald continues to beat him around all throughout the fourth round. Fifth round, Lawler comes out and just perfectly targeted taps on an already grisly smashed nose. And I thought he had killed him when he hit him with the nose, because the way he, you always hear the stories about, jamming the nose bone up into the brain. And I was like, is this the one where we finally see that happen? Because, MacDonald's nose is already smashed flat. Lawler catches it with a not especially hard shot, but just so perfectly targeted right on the smashed nose. And MacDonald grasps at his nose, falls down on his back, takes another punch or two, and it's all over. Just incredible.
Well, I mean, Robbie Lawler is so damn tough and hits so hard, like so much harder, I think, than and people know he hits hard, but it's like you have to think. Think of that Jake Ellenberger fight where Jake Ellenberger not only broke his hands punching Robbie Lawler, but got his face broken getting punched by Robbie Lawler. Like, this is somebody who is just breaking the fighters that come after him. And it's amazing. Like, the durability and the toughness and the just total power he has is unbelievable.
Yeah, and skill. I mean, he had a serious reach disadvantage against MacDonald, figured out how to slip the punches and get inside enough to – he never really worked him over inside. He just got close enough to get into his range and really hurt MacDonald. And this is one of the most amazing late career renaissances in MMA history. I mean, Lawler's been fighting since, 2001? And was hyped heavily as a future champion by the UFC early on in his career, got knocked out by Nick Diaz, then choked out by Evan Tanner, and then went on an exile for almost a decade, was outside the UFC, fought all over the world, Icon, Pride, International Fight League, Elite XC, and then Strikeforce. And, in Strikeforce, he lost more than he won. I mean, he lost, he lost to some people. He was fighting as a middleweight, but nonetheless, I mean, he lost to Jake Shields. And he lost to Lorenz Larkin. And this is a guy.
Lorenz Larkin is a welterweight right now. Like, they could fight again, and he lost to Lorenz Larkin.
Yeah. But I don't see any danger for Lawler in a rematch with Lorenz Larkin. I mean, Lorenz Larkin is so far away from Lawler's level at this point. And Lawler has said it's a matter of confidence that when he was outside the UFC, he just wasn't that into it. I mean, he was half-assing it and just didn't feel like a champion. But when he got back in the UFC, he just tasted it, and he smelled blood, and he immediately went on a run. Other than the UFC 171 loss to Johnny Hendricks, which many people felt Lawler won that fight, he hasn't lost at all, and it's just an amazing run. I've never seen anything like it really in MMA. You really don't see this kind of third act in a career
No,
in MMA.
it doesn't make any sense. I mean, frankly, if you're looking at like how MMA fighters progress when, when they're at their best, when they're supposed to be fighting the best fights of their career, this makes no sense. I mean, Verdum, like at heavyweight, that makes no sense either, but it's a heavyweight. Like heavyweight as a division is this weird circus division. Well, welterweight, you're supposed to like, these are set metrics. You're at your best like 6 to 10 years into your career, and then you fall off. And that's it.
But Lawler has turned it around, and he says it's psychological, and it's hard not to doubt him. He's always had the ability. I mean, this is a guy with fearsome physical gifts and a fearsome mentality. I mean, this is a born fighter, a very scary guy. When he first came out, and I was more squeamish as a younger guy, I used to just hate him because I was afraid of him, and I was afraid on behalf of fighters I was rooting for. I remember thinking when they booked the Nick Diaz fight, oh man, I love this new jiu-jitsu kid, and he's going to get killed. And so Diaz being Lawler was one of the great, bully gets upset, loses in an upset moments in my career as a fan. But now I'm totally on board with Robbie Lawler. I mean, he's still got that psychopathic edge to him, but he's such a smart fighter, such a skilled technician in the stand-up. And it's great to see a guy who's really paid his dues and paid and paid and paid. Now he's got UFC gold. He won the title. He held the title. What's next for Robbie Lawler?
Shit, I don't know. I mean, I hope that he's somebody that is always taken care of by them, by the UFC, and by fans. Like, that's what I really hope. Because I don't know if he'll keep the title for a really long time. I mean, MacDonald came close to beating him.
Yeah,
Lawler really rallied back and was damn good. But, we don't, like, there could be that, the next title challenger, I don't know, Hendricks could come back. I don't know that Hendricks can beat him. I'm convinced that the more times they fight, the better Lawler's going to do. Yeah. I feel like. But, I think they're
on the horizon in the welterweight division but you never know. People can come up fast. I mean, Gunnar Nelson tonight, for example, looked really incredible. I mean, we said a lot of shit on the vivisection that we ate, like with hot steaming helpings of crow.
I was really happy to see. Like, I'm so happy to see Gunnar Nelson develop a power striking game, because that makes he's had the timing and the accuracy, but before guys would just walk through him when he hit them.
Yeah, and he wasn't landing that second punch. I think the fact that he was firing a combination with serious bad intent made all the difference. And of course, we've jumped around on the card. We've gone back to the second fight on the pay-per-view card. Gunnar Nelson submitted Brandon Thatch after knocking him down, first round win. But Thatch had no say in that fight.
No, he really didn't. I mean, I knew like Thatch was either gonna keep it standing and I thought get the knockout, or he was dead meat when it got to the ground. And he was dead meat when it got to the ground.
It was a beautiful exhibition of ground grappling in modern MMA. The way Nelson was doing those hammer fists to the ear, very careful to avoid hitting the back of the head, but getting maximum leverage and torque on those shots. These weren't pity pats. These were full arm extensions, and was punishing him and moving him where he wanted to be. He gets the mount, beats on him a little bit, gets side mount, beats on him a little more, gets the back, beats on him at length. And then, you could just see Thatch worrying about the beating, and there's the arm under the throat.
Yep. It was brilliant work. I mean, it makes me, it reignites some of that, that excitement for Gunnar Nelson that I thought, frankly, was overblown. Because I knew he was a great grappler, but it was just like, he seemed like a guy who, he met Rick Story, and that was like his ceiling, is where he was this great grappler who just wasn't clicking with the striking part of it and how to keep getting a fight to the ground to show off that grappling. And this was just, he doesn't ever have to be a world-class, incredible wrestler if he can have more striking power,
Yeah. If you can beat the crap out of people till they fall to the ground, well, then the grappling just gets easier at that point.
Yeah.
And so that was exciting to see. But we really need to stop and talk about Jeremy Stevens versus Dennis Bermudez, who put on, if it hadn't been for the Lawler MacDonald bout, the Jeremy Stevens Bermudez, that was a brutal back and forth fight. I mean, brutal, wild swings and momentum. Stevens finally got him in the third round with what Joe Rogan called a fadeaway knee, which I thought was a great description because, usually the flying knee, you're coming forward.
Yeah.
This one, he was backing off. Bermudez did not see it coming.
No, it was amazing. I mean, Stevens, and this is so, I don't know, this is one of those weird things, I think, with guys who start really early in their career, like Stevens did. This is somebody who's 10 years in, he's 29. Like, there's this weird inconsistency in their performances. This is somebody who just got, like, run over by Charles Oliveira last time out. And then suddenly he's in there against Bermudez, and he looks fantastic. Bermudez hurt him a few times, but Stevens just looked like he had everything figured out that he did not have figured out in that Oliveira fight. And
absolutely, and the key thing was coming back from adversity and making adjustments. Because early on, I thought Bermudez was just having his way with him. And Stevens came in 4.5 pounds overweight. I thought, is he badly hurt? Does he have an injured rib or a hurt back, something that didn't allow him to do his cardio? He looked a little bit slow and sluggish. He's taken a beating. But then he caught Bermudez with some counters. And from that moment, once Stevens hurt Bermudez, at that point, it was just a pendulum just swinging back and forth wildly. I really am looking forward to rewatching this whole card, as a matter of fact. But that fight in particular merits a second viewing. It was incredible. Really good violence.
Unfortunately, and the bad part for Bermudez is it really puts a narrative on him between this and his last fight that he's somebody, and we've already kind of known this, but now it's really like he's somebody that's going to get hurt in fights, and good fighters, top 10 level fighters, are going to finish him when he gets hurt.
Yeah. And it reminds me of the Matt Grice fight way back in 2013 that Bermudez had. Bermudez came out ahead in that one, barely split decision. And then beat Max Holloway in a split decision, but that was at a much lower level. And now he's having fights of that same intensity and craziness, but against a higher level of guy, and not getting a win. So Grice's career was cut short tragically with a horrific car accident. So we really don't know what his ceiling was or would have been in MMA. We know Max Holloway's got a pretty high ceiling, but he was pretty undeveloped when Bermudez fought him. But at this point, 2 losses in a row to Ricardo Lamas and Jeremy Stevens. Definitely not the end of the world or the end of his career, but he's going to have to reset. Hopefully he can get some lower tier opposition, fight a gatekeeper guy or two and build back up and see where it can go. But Stevens, I don't know if he's quite rehabbed, because he had a few losses in a row himself, but great performance.
It's a fantastic performance, and it puts him right back into the top 10. Like it reinvigorates his career as a top 10 fighter who's going to be a test for other fighters at that level. A card headliner kind of fighter.
Yeah, does Max Holloway have a fight book?
Max Hall, I don't know. He should. He almost always has a fight booked.
Because that's who I'm thinking would be a fun one for Stevens.
Holloway is fighting, Charles Oliveira.
Oh, well, yeah.
Which is a fantastic fight.
Yeah, that's a great fight. So, I don't know who Nick Lentz lost. Cub Swanson's kind of fallen. I don't know who's next for Jeremy Stevens. But plus, winning off a fight where he blew weight like that, you got to think that Sean Shelby, the UFC matchmaker, is going to ding him for that. You don't want to put him in a really high-profile fight. But anyway, great fight. And then we got to talk about the opener, bantamweights Thomas Almeida and Brad Pickett. Brad Pickett, talk about eating crow. I was so ready to mock you as saying the fucking idiot Simon, because Brad Pickett was beating the piss out of Thomas Almeida in the first round, and then boom, flying knee out of nowhere 30 seconds into the second round.
Yeah, the thing fans are going to have to get used to with Thomas Almeida, and this is something that he'll have to change as time goes on, is A, he's not a fast starter, and B, it's not so much that he's like gonna, it's not so much that he is a guy who's just gonna blow people out of the gate right out of right out of the gate. It's that he fights really at a high pace with a really diverse attack, and it never slows down. Like second, third round, he's going to be right at that same high clip. And so, guys hurt him early, and it's happened in several fights. But it's not, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him get knocked out at some point because of it. But it's the fact that when it's the third round and he's throwing like 8 strikes per minute, then, or not per minute, but eight. I don't know, when when he's working at an incredibly high rate in the third round.
Probably like 8 strikes per 5 seconds or something like that.
It's an impossible pace, and that's what you see out of Almeida is really just this incredibly diverse striking attack that just gets harder and harder for fighters to cope with as the fight goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's run through the prelim card really quickly, because other than the Matt Brown-Tim Means fight, it was pretty piss poor. You had 2 fights on the Fight Pass card. Cody Pfister, decision, Yodesna Cedeno. I can't even say the guy's name. And the fight was terrible.
Yep.
Let's speak no more of it.
No.
Louis Smolka and Neil Seery, similar fight on the surface. Smolka won by decision, but it was a really pretty fun grappling match.
Yeah, that was a good fight. That was one of those times where, like, I think the unknown factor was that Seery is a willing grappler and always has been. He's like, it's not his first thing that he does, but he was really willing to just jump in and grapple with Smolka, and that was such a terrible idea.
Yeah,
Smolka was a way better grappler than him.
Yeah, that was a mistake. And Seery kept dropping to his back for guillotine attempts and gassing himself on guillotine attempts. He had a number of them that were tempting. I can see why he did it, but it really would have behooved him to mix it up, do more striking, get the fight back on the feet. But he never did it. Smolka got the decision. And then we come to the Fox Sports 1 prelim. Cody Garbrandt beat Henry Bjones. Another decision. Not a terrible fight, but nothing scintillating.
Yeah, a low simmer. Really disappointing fight for Garbrandt, honestly. I mean, this was a fighter that he was like an 11-1 favorite over this guy. And every time they like hooked up and got in the clinch at all, Garbrandt just like threw him to the mat and beat the piss out of him. And right at the end of the fight, when they actually traded like, several punches for once, Garbrandt hit him 3 times for every one that Briones returned. And it's just like, why were you fighting at such a low simmer over somebody that you had such a huge athletic and technical advantage over? It didn't make any sense at all.
No. I don't know. Paige Van Zant's going to have to talk to him. I don't know what
yeah, maybe he's just in a better place now, and like the happier he gets, the less aggressive he'll be.
Exactly. And then you had welterweight John Howard and Cathal Pendred. It wasn't quite as bad as I was afraid. Although one of the judges somehow gave it to Pendred in a decision that utterly baffling. But Howard got the split.
Yeah, that I'm not going to be mad about getting that wrong. That's
no.
That was an ugly. It wasn't as bad as Cathal Pendred's previous couple fights. I'll say that.
No, that's because Howard had the power to muscle him off, and
the hand speed too. The actual ability to, when they were in the clinch or when they were outside, hit him a few times. Just not a lot, just a few, enough to scare him, and that made a big difference. Yeah, it made a big difference. But let's move on. Alex Garcia, Mike Swick. Mike Swick really had nothing for Garcia, but Garcia couldn't do much with it. Yeah, Garcia's, he's unlike Garbrandt. He's more of a like all athleticism, really raw game, and that's just what you see. It's just like a great athlete who doesn't have many tools to work with. And
you'd think that the Vaughn at TriStar Gym would be teaching him something.
Yeah, I think that like their whole thing is they want raw fighters that they can build all of their game at once. And for some people, I think that just doesn't take as well. Like you're building all their skills at once, so they're not becoming an instantly great striker or great wrestler or great grappler. They're kind of moving all these pieces forward at the same time. And if they started from absolutely nothing, that can take forever.
Yeah, but we'll see. I didn't see really any. Swick hadn't fought in something like 2.5 years. It's hardly fought since 2009. I didn't see any reason for him to keep going. I mean, he had a pretty good career, not a great career, but dogged by health problems. I don't really want to see Mike Swick get hurt in there anymore.
Welterweight is full of guys like Garcia. I mean, it's full of guys who are either good athletes with limited skills or great skilled fighters with some athleticism. And Swick right now doesn't look like he would be a huge challenge for either.
No, Swick was a guy who had speed and
Yeah.
aggression in his heyday. He's lost the speed and really doesn't have the power to hang. But that brings us to Matt Brown and Tim Means. Easily a pay-per-view worthy fight. Did everything you'd expect from a Matt Brown-Tim Means fight. Means is kind of getting a reputation with me as a guy who can be out striking somebody, winning the fight, and then just let it all go really fast.
Well, I mean, partially he's gotten better over time. It used to be that he was much more willing to just kind of be winning, and then as he, if things didn't quite go his way, if he wasn't getting quite the openings, he wouldn't create them, and he would just kind of lose rounds. In this fight, it's really just that landing in the clinch is a big part of Tim Means' game. He's a fighter who loves to, work the outside, get into the clinch, land big elbows, do some dirty boxing, land hard knees. And you can't fight Matt Brown in the clinch. Robbie Lawler couldn't fight Matt Brown in the clinch. Hendricks just took him down every time they went into the clinch. You can't just sit in the clinch and try to outstrike Matt Brown, and Means went to it too many times.
Yeah. One too many times, and just you don't get that many chances with Matt Brown. And it was a really fun fight, really spectacular violence. And that brings us back to the main card. Any final thoughts on McGregor, Mendes, or Lawler, MacDonald?
I'm so geeked for Robbie Lawler. Like I am, he's the best welterweight in the world in 2015. Like that is just so stupid and fun and awesome.
Yeah, you never would have seen this coming, 5-6 years ago. Never. I thought Robbie Lawler was basically just fizzling away out of the wilderness, and probably one of the luckiest things about the Strikeforce acquisition is Lawler coming back to UFC and really doing it. One thing I want to throw out: what would you think of Jordan Mean versus Tim Means?
That'd be fun. I mean, well, my only question really with Jordan Mean is how good is his game right now? Because did he win another fight since his last loss?
No, he lost to Thiago Alves.
He lost to Thiago Alves, and that was just kind of it would be a fun fight.
Alves. Yeah,
it would be a fun fight. I think that I would trust Means more than Mean. That'd be a hell of a fight to commentate.
It would. That's kind of what I'm. Since I never got my Chris Teixeira versus Glover Teixeira fight, this might be the next best thing. Anyway, incredible card. Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo still looms ahead. I'm sure the shit talking is going to continue. That fight will be enormous. Joe Rogan said it was going to be the biggest fight in UFC history. Until we see the pay-per-view numbers on this one, I think it's way premature to say anything like that. But they're clearly willing to invest a lot of money in promoting McGregor Aldo. Now they've got another bite at the apple. And we saw with the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight that when you drag these things out, anticipation just builds. And
yeah. So, I would be surprised if the UFC can throw enough money at McGregor to make up for what he's going to get them. Like, I don't know that, maybe it won't be the biggest fight in UFC history. Maybe, but he is their pay-per-view star. He and Ronda Rousey right now, they are the UFC's only stars. It was John Jones, but John Jones is in the wilderness learning how to hunt again, Yeah.
Lawyered up, learning a lot about the legal process. And So McGregor Aldo, I have no idea what the timetable is going to be on that. McGregor didn't seem to be hurt, although there were rumors he'd hurt his knee before this fight. He mentioned that he had injuries after the fight. He said, I was hurt in training camp worse than Aldo was. I don't know if that's true, but he might need some time off. He might need surgery. Aldo, you can't get surgery. He's going to
fight again this year, so that's that's Aldo's current line.
I'll fight this year. Well, Aldo's canceled a lot of fights, but I'd love to see him book something. This could be a perfect New Year's fight. Very excited. I don't know when Lawler will be back. No idea about MacDonald. I hope he's okay, because that nose just was.
That's a career altering. That could be a career altering loss for MacDonald. I mean that could be your Josh Koscheck GSP kind of loss, where you've gotten an injury that's now going to always be an injury.
Yeah. And if you fight somebody shitty like Matt Hughes, they're just going to go after it.
Yeah.
And so and MacDonald, we already saw him, I think, be held back in his development when he lost to Carlos Condit. And this time he did almost everything he needed to do to win this fight, and he overcame some real adversity just to get that far. I mean, Lawler had already started hurting him badly. I mean, MacDonald's face was a blood mask at the point where he landed the high kick that hurt Lawler, and he just couldn't quite get the finish. And now, you know, this is a guy who roared into MMA, was hoping to win, planning to win a title by the time he was 25. Now he's 25, and he's lost the title fight and lost it in horrific fashion. Going to be hard to come back from. So anyway, lots to process, lots to chew on. But onward and upward. Eugene will have Knuckle Up on Monday. Tomorrow night,
got another night of fights tomorrow.
The Ultimate Fighter finale, which is way overshadowed. But we'll explore whether or not we do a 6th round for that one, just depending, I guess, how we feel and how fun the card is. But it got Jake Ellenberger versus Stephen Thompson, which should be a very fun fight. And Kamaru Usman versus Haider Hassan's got some intrigue off the Ultimate Fighter show. George Masvidal's fighting Maximo Blanco. So it should be a fun fight card on Fox Sports 1. And, of course, our own Josh Damon, got to give a shout-out to. So watch that tomorrow night. Eugene will have Knuckle Up on Monday. We may or may not have 6th round on this. And then after that, we've got Mir versus Duffy next Wednesday. So we're going to have to cram in Care Don't Care and a vivisection before that. So anyway, lots to keep up with. And then they've got Fight Night Glasgow coming up on July 18th. So Bisping versus Light is really the last and least of this run of cards. But it should be good. And then there's still a Fox card with Dillashaw versus Barao too for the bantamweight title on Fox. So anyway, big month for MMA action. And then we got Ronda Rousey fighting at UFC 190 at the beginning of August. So stay tuned. Give us a like on YouTube. Subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at KidNate, at TheZaneSimon. Read us on BloodyElbow.com. And adios, MMA aficionados. Thanks a lot, Zane. We'll see you next time.